You are listening to All Burgundy and Go Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio, 96.9 FM and 1340 AM, Hopewell, Virginia. Your host star, Wole and Glen, Mo and Ray Jeezy are out. We also have Adam Aniba back on the show from the Burgundy and Gold Report. Adam was on our last show and he's back on this show. You know, we didn't get a chance to do last week. I've been dealing with an injury, so I'm about 60%. So I was like, I gotta do the show now. You know what I mean? I gotta be like Jordan's flu game type thing. So Adam, what's going on, man? How you been, bro?
Same scenario, man. I pulled a muscle doing
Bro,
yard work.
I pulled a
getting old
hamstring
sucks,
playing
man.
ball, man. It sucks,
Yeah.
man.
I guess this is the injured episode, man. Had a
It's the injured episode,
little
man.
surgery,
IR episode,
little surgery
right?
on top of the dome piece here, you know.
Exactly, man.
Got some stitches on the top of the dome. So this is the injury episode, right?
It is, man. It sure is, man. Hey, man, but it's good to have Adam on. We can talk some drafts. I wanted to talk about it last week, but I wasn't able to. So I'm glad we have the opportunity to talk about it this week. All right, let's get into particulars before we get into the task in hand. Hey, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Go Errrything. Also, tweet us at ABG_Errrything and hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything and like our All Burgundy and Go Errrything Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Go Errrything YouTube channel as well. Anyway, it's time for the pregame. Here's what we have on tap. We'll recap the Washington Commanders draft selections. Let's get right into it. Adam, with the 16th pick in the draft, the Washington Commanders selected Mississippi State cornerback Emmanuel Forbes. You spoke about him on our prior show. What makes this kid worth the 16th pick overall?
It's pretty simple. It comes down to turnovers. Washington was ranked 28th, 29th, 2 consecutive years in turnovers. It was like 9 and like 12 interceptions back to back. And it's just horrible, horrendous. They had to get somebody. I understand the complaints because Gonzalez was on the board. That was one of the first cornerbacks I evaluated. So, having him one of the first and then Forbes being one of the last, it was able to get, a really good comparison. And I was able to see at the end is one thing that Gonzalez really bothered me is when the ball in the air, he just takes a long time to get his head around. Forbes is the complete opposite. He's not a gambler, but he's looking to jump routes. He's always got his arms up and he's always got his eyes on the ball. I've heard complaints about or criticisms that, 4 or 5 of his interceptions came off of tip balls. That's what a ball hawk is. A ball hawk is somebody that's in position, that's always around the ball and making plays. But then you add in the factor that, although he, originally weighed in at 166, where it is, he's close to 175 now. He supports the run game. He's fearless as a tackler. So, this is the kind of guy that with Washington's current defense, they're going to need him to get interceptions. And the front line, as far as, getting this guy to be, stacking against the line, being a box guy, that's not something he's going to do. He's not going to be a press man. He's not going to be a thing like that. He fits perfectly in their zone scheme. And honestly, it might have been for me about, 8 or 10 picks early. I had him as a late first, early second. A lot of people had him in that mid-second round range, but, playing against these SEC teams, that really said it all. You look at Gonzalez playing against the Pac-12, it's night and day. So although I think Gonzalez will be a good one, I think Forbes he has a better opportunity, I think, in Washington with the, current talent around him.
To be real, would you get Christian Gonzalez over
No,
Forbes?
surprisingly not. When they were on the board, I was really like, Gonzalez on the board. I was really that they're going to take him, but I was like, I really think that if you get Forbes, you have the opportunity probably immediately to get him in. I think Gonzalez, although he's probably going to, play early, I think that he's going to need a little more time. I think Forbes is tailor-made for what they're doing in Washington.
Okay, so you think Forbes is just a better fit?
It's a fit. That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't say it for all teams. Like, if you talk about the Patriots or thing, I wouldn't agree with it. But I think with Washington, the current setup they have, hopefully if Benjamin St-Juste can stay healthy, they've got another long guy on the other side. We'll talk about, where that leaves with Fuller because it kind of is an odd man out. But Del Rio wants, length on the outside, and that's exactly what Forbes gives you.
Does the size thing bother you?
Not really. Like I said, I think that it'll only be an issue if he plays out of control, because if he plays like we saw him play, like a lot of his tackles, are wrap up shoestring tackles using the length that he has. He's not really, laying huge hits or throwing his body around. that's the way a guy of his size is going to get hurt. Not just playing in space, playing in space in zone. And, we see them with this Buffalo nickel, he'll be able to survey the field and have the ball in front of him. So, I wouldn't be comfortable, with one of the bigger running back like Saquon Barkley or whatever, of taking him on one-on-one. That could be an issue of durability. But I just saw too many instances of him playing against guys like that and understanding that he's not going to take them on and square up, that those are the kind of situations that, he's going to try to just, undercut them, take their legs out. So I think he's a really intelligent player, and that's going to help his durability.
Glenn, you wrote an article about Forbes. What was your thought when you heard the selection?
I thought the pick was good because of his intelligence and because he played in SEC, right? Because of his being smart, playing in SEC, playing against high quality competition. You look what he played against, right? Look at he played against Bryce Young, right? And he had a good game against Alabama. If you go back and watch the tape, right? And so he played against top quality. I think because his length and because as Adam said, what Washington's trying to do. When you have a ball hawk, right, he's always finds himself around the football. And somehow, some way, when you want players who always find themselves around the ball. Everybody was talking about his weight and his height. Well, Darrell Green wasn't that big neither, right? And I'm not saying he's Darrell Green, but Darrell Green was smart. And that's what you're looking for. You're asking for smart guys to be in the back because you have a good front four, right? And we said at the beginning of last season, the secondary took a long time for them to catch up to the front four. So if you got the secondary that can stay healthy, St. Juice and Fuller may be out, but if you can bring a Forbes on and the secondary can come out in the first couple of games that Washington has, and everybody can be the defense can be clicking on all cylinders, it could be very scary this year for other opponents. And because again, you want to be able to cover down in the secondary, have a strong secondary, and let your front four as well as your linebacker crew make your tackles. If it gets to the point where running back is in the safety in the backfield, the front four didn't do their job, right? And if your safety and your corners are your leading tacklers, that means your defensive line and linebackers didn't do what they're supposed to do. And I'm not worried about his size, but people say, oh, he's too small. Well, that's the least of our problems. If he's back there and Saquon Barkley or some of those running backs from Philly breaks back there, it's a lot of letdowns before they get to the cornerback or to the safety. So, I like Emmanuel Forbes. I think he's played well. He was a good leader, right? You know what I'm saying? And in college, and I think he'd be a leader in the locker room here. And I think he has a good work ethic, and that's what you want. You want guys that have good work ethics who have played in big games. And it's like every Saturday a game in the SEC is a big game.
True, very true. For me, I don't care if he gets burnt. I don't really care. I think that he's a dude that I think this team needs a dude that can turn the ball, get turnovers. I think I would give. I mean. Look, Diggs gets beat all the time. The Cowboys. He gets burnt, but he turns that into interceptions a lot. You know what I mean? Because he has wide receiver skills as a cornerback. So I'm all for it, man. I'm all for it. To me, if you're a ball hawk, that translates in the NFL. Regardless, that always translates. I can name you a bunch of dudes I've seen over my lifetime of watching football. Dre Bly's one who played for North Carolina, led the country in interceptions, went to the NFL. People, they talked about his size. That was a thing. His size was a thing because he's a shorter cornerback, but was always able to get turnovers, get interceptions, and take it to the house. He did what he did in college and did it in the NFL. Terrell Buckley played in Miami, the same way. Terrell Buckley was the same way. Yeah, he would get beat because he took chances. But Terrell Buckley would get turnovers because that always translates. If you're a guy that gets your hands on the football, that can take it to the house, that will translate in the NFL any which way. So this defense to me, like Adam, you said earlier, they need that type of player. They need a guy that can just get their hands on the football and take it to the house. Because, and Glenn mentioned it, this defensive line gets pressure and quarterbacks will be rushing to get the ball out there. And if you're not accurate and you throw the ball high, Forbes is the kind of dude that can make you pay. And I feel like this is what this team needs. They don't have enough of those players. I think Kendall Fuller down the stretch shows you that he's one of those guys. Big interception against the Atlanta Falcons to steal the game. The pick six against the Houston Texans. You got the interception against the Cowboys, that pick six, where Dak was throwing interceptions, threw him 2 picks, and he just got one of them. So I'm just saying, you got another guy on that team that can do it. And I hear about what does this mean by Kendall Fuller? To me, it doesn't mean anything. He was a guy that played well for him down the stretch. What it means is that NFL doesn't run 2 base sets anymore, wide receiver sets anymore. They don't do that. Okay, they don't do that anymore. But if they do it, that is in play. If you go against a team that has that type of package, you can play Forbes and St. Juice, and then when they go 3, play Forbes and Forbes and Fuller on the outside, because we know Fuller can't play inside anymore. Forbes and Fuller on the outside, and St. Juice on the inside, because we've seen St. Juice do it on the inside and be effective at it anyway. So it's a good situation. I think it was a perfect draft. It was a good draft pick. Adam, after listening to you last a couple weeks ago, I was like, okay, when they got this kid, I was like, all right, I'm good with this. Like,
that was good timing too, that I came on with you and talked before.
It was great timing. Yeah, seriously. Like, when that happened, I was like, I'm good with this. Like, I was like, I was on a text chain on my boys, and they were good with it. I was like, yeah, I'm cool. Like y'all cool with this? Like, I'm good with this. Like, I'm happy with this draft pick. I saw Twitter like, oh, we should they got Christian. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, I'm good with a dude that can get picks.
I think with that, sometimes Washington you got to stay away from the big names. I think sometimes you got people who a fan base who wants big names, and sometimes we know big names coming to Washington most times don't pan out.
Yeah.
You big names really don't pan out, right? The guys who are underrated, guys who have work ethic, guys who are intelligent, that was panned out for this organization. Yeah. We can go through a list of commanders who came here with big names and they fizzled out. Yeah. Not about a big name.
No, I'm not about, I mean, to me, like, it's just a perfect, like Adam said, it's a perfect fit. It's not even about, I think all these kids are trying to make a name for themselves. So Christian Gonzalez to me isn't nobody. He isn't nobody yet. But I think in terms of when you look at these mocks and where he ranked and rated, where he was rated at, and people didn't think he would slip. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's about the fit. Like I can go from last year. Like people said the same thing about Jahan Dotson.
Yeah, exact thing
about Jahan Dotson, and now they love him. So I'm like, obviously they did their homework in terms of what they want for their defense, and I feel like if the explanation is we want to get more turnovers, I ain't knocking that. Like, sometimes you're gonna have to lose. You have to deal with a dude who gets beat. But if he gives you the ball back, you cool with it. I mean, I'm cool with a guy who can give you, and plus you're playing with you got a young quarterback out there who you want to give him extra possessions. You want to make maybe the defense will score for you. Maybe this kid gets you some more points where this young quarterback doesn't have to score as much, or doesn't have to score because this dude just gave you a pick six or a fumble, took it to the house. So I'm cool with that, man. Also,
when you have two safeties like Forrest and Curl, he has the ability to play his game, and be a little more of a gambler. You talk about Young, Sweat, Allen, Payne. Those guys get their hands on the ball. So we're talking about he got 5 picks on tip balls. Well, that's what's going to be in play for him. Yes. Gonzalez, this is what I'm going to tell you. What I look back and saw, there was a bunch of situations where he was in the area and his head wasn't turned around. Yeah. Forbes is the complete opposite. He's always on the swivel, and we just talk him, Banks, or Gonzalez. To me, I was happy with 3 of them. The Porter, I started to get a little more sour on him during the draft process. Yeah, but all 4 of those guys, I thought, if they get one of those, they got to get a cornerback. It was since Carlos Rogers, so they have to get a cornerback.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I mean, I'm used to. I think in Washington, we've been used to like Dale Green was a pick 6 when he was younger. When he was older, he was more of that just really solid, really great defensive cornerback who just took the ball away. You weren't getting that space. Carlos Rogers wasn't in Washington. Wasn't a guy that was gonna take it to the house, but he was always around. Like I'm cool with those guys. I like those. I love those guys. Kind of guys too.
You can't forget a Champ Bailey who just.
Champ was different. Champ was a different breed. That's why I don't bring. He was a different breed. That's why I don't even. Champ was everything. Like Champ was everything. So I don't like he was different. Champ was different. But it's refreshing. Fred Smoot was more in this realm for this kid, but I do think this kid is more of a dynamic playmaker than even Fred Smoot.
Oh yeah.
Fred Smoot was more of a guy that would get picks, like he would get picks, but he wasn't a guy that as dynamic as this kid. You know what I mean? So I just think that, in my opinion, for me, is just watching this team for years, I think this is a good one. This is the one that they typically, the kind of kid they typically don't draft,
right?
Like as a corner, and I think this is a good one because it fits what this defense needs. This defense is good at getting you. Right, last year they were getting off of 3rd downs. They were doing all that, but it wasn't, and they were getting sacks. But now it's time to take it to the next level and create turnovers, like Adam said, generate turnovers. And if you can do that by having a defense, a cornerback who is about getting picks, who is about getting turnovers. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's what I'm for.
And and then exactly going with a corner, another DB in the next pick. We'll talk about that.
Take me there, Adam. We are there. Take me right there. That's the next
perfect fit. I was questioning it because I didn't watch his film until post draft, but man, I'm so excited because
so you like it, okay?
Nickel back, like everyone got really caught up in the whole safety, and that's somebody you could look at as a backup safety if you need depth. But this guy is day one nickel starter. I'm telling you, because what this is going to do is, people keep mentioning that Buffalo nickel. He's a straight slot. He's a straight nickel guy. And what this will do is, taking out the extra linebacker, I think you're going to see more Percy Harvin.
But mention his name though. Mention his name.
Butler. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Quan Martin. Quan Martin.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead. But keep
Quan
going.
Martin, Illinois. He played with a stacked defensive backfield. We saw, Witherspoon, which to me, he hands down,
Beast.
other than Forbes, I think he was one of the better fits for Washington too. But played in an excellent defensive backfield. Was able to drop in the safety. But what I just loved about him in that nickel role is he was just laser focused, good, solid tackler, up until the final year. Wasn't crazy ball hawks. It was like 50 games.
Yeah.
But he got 3 out of his 7 career interceptions last year. And he saw a lot of time in nickel last year. So you look what, they talk about, Bobby McCain. This guy is, a turbocharged Bobby McCain, a guy that has, not that much more size, but he looks bigger on the field than Bobby McCain does. So once you have a guy like this, that's why I keep saying, Fuller's the odd man out, and, BSJ can just stay on the outside, because this is a guy day one, you put him in the nickel and you don't look back. And I think that's exactly what they're going to do with him.
Who would you say his comp is?
Who? Man. I don't know, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of prototypical slots out there, and that they can drop back and play safety. But this is a guy that I truly believe that if we wanted to play him at free safety, we could play him at free safety. We can play him in the slot. I don't know, because the speed's not going to really blow you away. But he's not labeled 4.46. 4.46. It's not going to blow you away. But the thing is, it's his short area quickness, because when it comes to guys that are covering the slot, it's not about that straight line speed. It's more about those short shuttles and about, how he moves in small spaces. And that's what I really like about him, is his recovery, how he's able to flip his hips. Those are the little things with the slot guy that, he'll take his lumps, honestly, because, we see a lot of good teams, they'll put some of their better guys sometimes in the slot. So he could go against, number 1 wide receivers in the slot. So, he'll take his lumps. But like I said, when you have, on paper, you have a supporting cast of Curl, Forrest,
Percy Butler.
Percy
Butler too.
And that's what I was saying about Percy Butler, is the guy that I think that they're going to inject into the Buffalo.
Yeah, he played well in that Dallas game, so he looked really good in that Dallas game.
Yeah, and I think Martin is just more of that prototypical nickel slot. I don't think they're going to have to worry about moving him around too much. They've got guys like that they're able to do that with. So I think immediately there's not going to be an overload. It's just going to be having him really focus on the slot, really just focus on his technique. And if he has to, he can get physical close to the line. And from what I'm understanding, Del Rio is going to want to do that here and there, especially with St. Juice. He really wants to, try to get him a little more pressed, have Forbes, 5-6 yards off, setting them up. So when those slants, the crossing patterns, he's got him back. He's got the safeties in between, and they're really covering all spots of the field. So, when it comes down to it, we talked a lot of crap about Del Rio, but I really like what he's doing now. Because, I'm able to watch a little more tape, see his scheme, his zone scheme. And, a lot of the frustration with Chase Young is that he's just not being disciplined to the system. He's trying to freelance a little bit, but I think this is the year.
Who that sound like? Been saying that since.
Come on, Adam, you had to mention Chase. I've been saying this man anti-Chase, man.
No, I'm not anti-Chase, but I've been saying the same thing. I've been saying the same thing Adam just said since day one, right?
I'm messing with you, man. I'm messing with you.
Since day one, Chase Young is a athletic player, but he's also a liability.
Yeah,
his liability on this team. I bet you Chase Young somewhere else is amazing.
That's fine. Somewhere else where he can freelance, but when you freelance on this team in the defense that Del Rio plays,
it's unfortunate because he can be an animal. System,
and you have to do it. You have to do it Del Rio's way. This, if you really look at it, and it's not the Chase Young show. And
I'm not gonna blast Chase Young.
They did draft. The Commanders did draft a pass rusher anyway. That's
don't do that. See that I won't do. Not that pass rusher, because people do see. Just because you draft the pass rusher don't mean he don't. I'll
take one that will follow my system.
No, that one is not the one. I'm not doing a pass rusher in the 5th round as a Chase Young replacement. No. People always get booed, and then look at the stats. I'm like, this is not Chase Young replacement.
Not a replacement, but this team proved last year they can play without Chase Young.
Other dudes, that's fine.
They don't need Chase Young to be successful.
Look, KJ Henry, God bless him, in his life and I messed with his father. Had a Redskins Commander jersey. All praise to you. But look, man, you're a 5th rounder. Work hard, bro. Work
one of the
hard.
best high school pass rushers in the
That's
nation.
great, man. Look,
He's
there's
a
a lot.
he's a sub package third down guy
Yeah.
to start. And
Yes.
if everything goes right,
Yeah.
he does have a chance to, get more time. But no, he is not a replacement for our defensive.
I mean, because everyone, my issue is, and we'll talk about the rest of these draft picks, but my issue with the whole KJ Henry thing. As soon as you draft the edge rusher, this is a message to Chase. I'm like, if you was gonna make a message to Chase, your second round pick would be an edge rusher. It wouldn't be it wouldn't even be your fifth rounder.
It doesn't have to be a motivation to Chase. What I'm saying is, if Chase's name was on some trading talk, which they're not going to do that anyway. But you don't need.
It's not just Chase too, it's Montez too.
But you don't need Chase Young in this defense to still be successful, and that was proven last year. Look,
look. This is my thing.
More liability unless he fixes technique. Yeah. He is more liability.
I agree with all that. This is my thing. You don't need Chase. Your defense was good without Chase Young. I agree with you. Yeah. But if you get the real Chase, look, you get a Chase Young I saw in Ohio State, and I'm a Michigan fan. Like I don't give Ohio State players credit. I don't care if you're local or whatever. I don't give them credit. That Chase Young, the way that Chase Young, you get that over here, your defense is 10 times better. It's not even close. It's not even close.
The defensive line coach is going to be the difference, because with Payne, if you just look at Payne in 2021 and 2022, it's the hand usage, it's the counters. Yeah. And if Young really dedicates himself to that, things are going to be unbelievable this year.
And real talk, and to be honest with you, and I'm going to add this too, really, because the defensive line is that much more trill. When I mean more trill, because Payne took his game to another level.
Yeah.
And Allen has been consistent and still gets better, to be honest with you. And then you got Avi Sweat. To me, Sweat didn't get the sacks, but he got a lot of pressure. Chase don't got to work that hard to get sacks.
That's what I'm saying.
He don't got to work hard to get sacks. He don't. He can get, just because his God-given ability, he doesn't have to really work that hard to get sacks.
He just has to be in position. If you watch Chase Young, it's too much rushing upfield and not squeezing to the line.
I agree.
He creating lanes and holes, and you're playing in the NFC East.
You're talking about running lanes or passing lanes?
He curating running lanes and passing lanes.
Okay, no, he's good against the run. Chase is good against the run.
No. If you go back and watch Chase Young on late down, third down.
No, if you're talking about running quarterbacks, yes, I agree. I agree with that. But again,
he's the end as a liability, because he's going to rush upfield, and every quarterback
against the running quarterback, I totally agree. I'm not going to I totally agree. But against the run, that man is a monster. I would argue to say he's better. This is becoming a Chase Young son. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing a Chase Young show. But I'm just saying he gets a running spot. All right, so Adam. So you do like the second. See, I don't like. All right, so I have an issue. The dude from Illinois, I'm not like it's an unknown to me. He's an unknown to me. So I'm not gonna act like I'm in love with it. I won't. I'm in love with the first pick. I am in love with the first pick. But the second round pick, I just feel like there are other positions that could have been drafted ahead of time. I do think there are players that you can kind of work around. Because I mentioned Kendall Fuller playing outside and staying juice on slot when you go in three sets, because they do 3 sets. A lot of teams are doing 3 sets. 4 sets are a stretch, because I feel like, all right, I mean, you could play. I guess you don't. I mean, a lot of people don't like Danny Johnson. It's fine. I think Danny Johnson, the fourth cornerback, is fine. That's my opinion. I think he's adequate as a fourth cornerback. But I understand. I get it. But I think
it was. You know what it was? It was Steve Avila from TCU. That was their guy. Yeah, and he was off the board. Okay. That's what happened.
What position was that?
Well, he played center and guard.
Yeah, okay, there you go. Got you.
Washington would have played him at guard. But from everything I understand, you talk about fit. Yeah. That's exactly what Martin is, because it's like you get a Villa, you really get closer to solidifying. Martin, in my opinion, on paper, if everything goes right, you've solidified that defense, because you're talking about although they were really bad in turnovers, they were top 15 in overall pass defense.
Yes, they were.
So by solidifying that guy, and that's like, because Bobby McCain, he wasn't the one. He was, he's a role player. He could do that. But this guy, Quan Martin, I'm telling you, I like I said, I didn't know much about him. I was upset because I wanted to see an interior offensive lineman.
Yeah.
After I watched the third game of just how physical he is, just how smart he is, you can tell they have a blueprint. They love guys that have played minimum multiple 4 years.
I know, and
5
multiple
years,
positions too.
6 years, some of them. But the positional, the versatility.
Yeah, they love
it. It's a fault to a point. But in this scenario, in this draft, you talk about my guy Ryan Fowler with TDN. We were talking, a couple weeks ago on me and Doug's show to him, and that's exactly what he was saying. He was just like, I love the idea of the position versatility. I love the idea that they really focus on guys that have 4 or 5 years experience in college, that have just gone through the process and have seen what professionalism looks like. So it doesn't always work.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, with the draft class, with at least these first 3-4 picks, I love it. I love it. I was at a B+ at that point, and then it started tapering off a little bit to a solid B.
And that's what I said about Martin too. I think because he stayed at Illinois for 5 years, he was a 5-year starter. He hasn't matured.
COVID year.
He has that maturity. He's seen some different things. And as you mentioned earlier, Adam, as a 5th-year starter, if you look, his numbers increased in his last year. That means
That's what see.
That means he got smarter, got wiser, and knew how to play the game and play the position that much better. And that's what you look at for kids who stay in school a little bit longer.
Right.
I do have a question with Martin too. Just like I guess I would have one with any cornerback from the Big Ten. Does it scare you that you're playing against maybe a couple teams that should really have a good passing offense? Does that scare you a little bit? Like in the SEC, you got multiple teams that can kind of like throw the football, throw the rock. In the Big Ten, you pretty much, I hate mentioning this team, but you have Ohio State, who throws the football, pretty much. Michigan doesn't really throw the football for real, but you want to say
Maryland threw it around.
They throw it, but they don't throw it. They throw it.
Yeah,
it's Maryland.
He's going to take some. He's going to take some lumps early on. But he came in just like Forbes. He came to the right situation because DB. The best thing you could have is an awesome front four that's going to get their hands on balls, and you're going to see it. There's going to be a ton of tip balls this year. And finally, that's what I'm saying. I think those two guys are the difference that are going to take them from 9 interceptions last year to, I think we're going to see at least 15, 16 this year.
Okay.
I really
do you see any tape? You watched it. You see any tape with him against Ohio State? Because I'm really interested to see how. Did he look good against Ohio State?
He held his own. He held his own.
Because that's the one I care about. Like, to me, I feel like if you look good against Ohio State, then you're tested for real. Because their receiver core, you're seeing day one draft. You're seeing first round picks. You're seeing first round picks.
No, he held his own, but the Iowa game, the Michigan State game, those were some of the games that he really showed how good he could be. I'm talking about this guy's a tackler. See, what you don't have in Forbes, you really have him as a guy that's going to pick him up and suplex you. And this is the guy, that's the kind of, fury in the NFC.
So he couldn't play safety? So safety ain't his thing now? Safety's not his thing? That sounds like a safety to me.
I think if we weren't in the current situation we were in, I think, you could put him in safety because he's a straight up single high guy. But he just is so good in that nickel role, and that's what Washington needs. Forced into merge, I'd say, put him in. That's why it's just such a good pick, because to say you can start a guy at two positions, you don't in the second round. Washington has had bad luck with second rounds. I think it ends with him. I really do.
Okay. All right. So other players drafted were third round center Ricky Strongberg out of Arkansas, 4th round O-lineman Braden Daniels out of Utah, 5th round edge rusher. We talked about him a little bit. KJ Henry out of Clemson. 6th round running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. out of Kentucky, and 7th round linebacker Andre Jones out of Louisiana. All right, out of these names, Adam, which players do you see making an impact, if any?
Yeah, Stromberg. I think it's Stromberg against Gates. Obviously, people. I kept getting a lot of comments when I put out that report. They're like, "Well, what about Larson?" No, Larson's the backup to whoever doesn't get the job. So Stromberg loses. He falls behind Larson, but you know what he is? Then he's the backup guard. Because his first year at Arkansas, all guard. I'm not high on him in that position. But I think maybe in 2 years, I think he's going to be the man at center, starting center. But in saying that, the way we've seen the injuries, if he has to step in and be the starter this year with Sam Howell, I have confidence in him. I think he's a guy I love his mean streak. I like what he does in space. And, you see that Washington likes to get their guards moving. That's one thing he does well. He's not the quickest guy, not the best athlete, but man, he's just his functional strength and his mean streak. That's what I really want to see in an interior lineman. So I like the pick. It's a good pick.
Go ahead, Glenn. Go ahead.
And that's what I was gonna say too about Stromberg. I watched a lot of film on him, especially on stretches. If you watch him get out on stretch when he has to stretch and he has to step down and he gets there and he moves whoever they're in front of him, whether it's a linebacker or interior lineman, he gets his hands on him and he goes until he hears a whistle. And that's what you want when you got running backs like Brian Robinson and guys like that, especially on stretches, when you can stretch and get the offense and the running back can look for the cutback lane. And what I've seen in Stromberg's tape, that he was able to create a lot of cutback lanes for his running backs at Arkansas. And also, again, he won the award for being the best blocker in the SEC. I mean, you can't do that because of his aggressiveness, and that's what you want for an offensive line. When you have a young quarterback, you want guys who are aggressive, guys who are not going to let the quarterback get touched, and guys that can move people off the football. Because Washington, if you look at Eric Bieniemy, they do like to run the ball a little bit, right? They do like to run the ball. So you want an offensive lineman that can get off the ball quickly and create those lanes for running backs.
I like you selling me on him. You're selling me on Stromberg. I like it. I like you selling.
And you know what? And that's why, and after talking to a lot of people and, just reading a lot of stuff, I understand the Rodriguez pick too. I understand, before the draft, I only evaluated scat backs, Keaton Mitchell, Spears. So I was really surprised, but I understand what they're doing. That's going to be AG's role. Gibson is going to be more that pass catching, whatever he's going to do. But they want a downhill guy because you saw what Pacheco did in the Super Bowl.
Facts.
Okay. That's what they see in Rodriguez. That's exactly, it's, north-south runner, a guy that's going to drag the pile, that's going to, it's going to get mad yak. That's the kind of guy that they're looking for. You think Eric Bieniemy, you just assume, as I did, that they want more of that pass catching back. But
I did. That's what I thought too. I thought so too.
Hearing, the coach, although he didn't do it much, in Kentucky, his coach was talking about, he can do it. It's just their passing offense was pretty damn stagnant. And so he was just asked to go north-south. And most importantly, they drafted him because he's an excellent blocker. And that's what they have lacked on third down is I think Robinson, he's getting there. AG's, I don't think he'll ever be there. That's just not his game. But Rodriguez, that's why you're going to see he's going to get some plays. He's going to get some time early on because he's a good blocker on third down. And he doesn't just push them off their marks, the pass rushers. He lays them out. And so that's the kind of guy I understood. I was mad about the pick, but again, another one. I'm on his fourth game right now. And I'm already sold that he's going to see time this year.
So he's that Clinton Portis running back in the day where Clinton Portis used to pick off.
Man, Clinton Portis the GOAT, man. That's the GOAT, man. That's the GOAT. That's the GOAT of blocking, man. Nobody. I feel that's the GOAT. That's the GOAT of blocking.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best. Yeah.
Yeah, ever. I don't even like putting anybody in Clinton Portis' level. That he searched and destroyed. That's what what he did.
He was one of the best blocking backs that
I've ever seen. Period. And he's not even that big a dude. That's a willingness to do it. That's a whole different thing. So all right, let's go to fourth round pick. Adam O-line Braden Daniels out of Utah. Is he? Is he him? Is he going to be?
I'm putting out his scouting report hopefully tonight or early tomorrow. I just finished his games this afternoon. I don't see him as a left tackle. I think he can play left tackle. He's functional. He showed last year, that he is more than serviceable. He's one of the better ones in the division. But prior to last year, it was a lot of time at guard, and I just like small hands. A left tackle. You want them to have monster hands, strong bare hands. He doesn't, that was the thing. Anytime he got his hands on guys like that, it was more of a push. It was less of, throwing him down. But when he was at guard, it's weird. It seemed like when I was watching him at guard, it was like his punches were actually just more vicious. So I think that ultimately, swing tackle role. But in the end, I think guard, he can be really good. But right now, I really like Chris Paul. I left guard. I think Norwell, you're going to see Norwell get cut any day now. I'm surprised it hasn't happened. But I don't really think Sadiq Charles is really in the running. I think they won't, hype it up much, but I think it's more going to be Daniels and Chris Paul are going to be the guys for left guard. And, we'll see Cosme at right guard.
I don't like to talk about Sadiq Charles because every time I talk about Sadiq Charles, I think about Trent. So I don't really like talking about him. So I don't like talking because that's a waste of a trade. That's all right. So, because your description of him, I'm like, this dude seems a little soft. Then is he does a punch?
No, it's not. He's soft. It's like 6'4" and he's just under 300. That's not really prototypical for blindside.
No, it's not.
But interior, that is actually pretty much ideal. I want to see him I'm going to bulk up a little more. And it's not that he's not strong. That's not it. And it's not that he doesn't, knock guys off their mark. It's like I said, you don't see that vicious punch in those strong hands. But what he does, though, he makes up for it with his angles. And that's the thing about the NFL. that takes these guys years to learn is understanding blocking angles. There was so many occasions, if you look at the Florida game with Utah, he figures out these angles, how to take two guys out of the play at the same time. It's like, you see those movies where they put a gun to a guy's head and go through two heads.
Yeah.
He has an innate ability to do that. And I love him. I think where we got him in the draft, I think he, just from his tape alone, he should have been in that third round discussion. So, they talk about reaches. I think that he fell because of the position, because people just weren't sold him as left tackle and they weren't sure if, he could excel at guard. But I think he'll be a decent backup left tackle. And he played right tackle also. Don't forget about that. It's almost equal across the board. It was like 12, 13, and 12.
Equal plays.
Yeah, left tackle, guard, and right tackle. So it's not just like a little here and there. It's pretty evenly dispersed through his career. A lot of career games. So I think in the end, he'll back up left tackle this year. But I think, hopefully we don't see injuries. But I think, in time, he's going to be a really good guard. I see more of a flop rate at tackle, but at guard, I think at worst, he's one of those middle of the pack guards. So at best, I think he can be, a top 10, top 15 guard in the league.
So he's more of a zone scheme guard.
A bit, yeah. But I think a lot of the things you see with his footwork and, sometimes, he hurts himself with it's silly little things, with offensive linemen that I think can be cleaned up. But with those tackles, you want to see that kick sliding. With him, I don't love it. You know what I mean? It's not pretty. Like when you see Antoine Harrison do it, even, the kid from Georgia do, Broderick, even though with the Georgia kid, he didn't have a ton of experience. That kick slide just looked natural. It doesn't look natural with Daniels. I think he just looks natural going forward, downhill, and I think with Washington, that's what they really want to do. So, they'll talk him up at tackle for a little bit because they really haven't addressed that other than Wiley. But I think in the end, he's going to be a really good guard.
Yeah, I think his mobility is there. I think when you talk about angles earlier, there's just the mobility of getting off the ball. I think that's where they picked him at. That he's able to maneuver. He is kind of intelligent, smart kid. You got to be kind of smart to go to Utah, right?
Very smart.
You got to be very smart to go to. I mean, for real, you got to be very
smart.
I
feel like you got to be strong to go to Utah too for some strange reason.
I think because of his size, I think he's barely tipping 300, right at 300 or somewhere.
Yeah, but the great thing about him is his frame looks like it could hold at least 20, 25 more pounds without much issues.
He can get bigger then. Okay.
Yeah, so
he's bigger. So I think that's the issue too.
Yeah, these are the things that I think just make sense with, of an eventual transition to guard at full time. But I think to have a guy that's a true swing tackle, but a guy that's more a guard, I think no matter what happens with this regime, he'll have a spot on this team.
No, I mean, I hope it works out, man. I hope because the line needs to, for a young quarterback, the line has to be something that you can rely on. It can't be something that you just experiment with. It's something you have to rely on.
They needed to do more.
Exactly.
So that's my concern coming into the season.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of eggs in the basket for Cosme working out at guard.
Look, man,
I'm not sold on it. I'm more sold on Paul than I am on him right now.
I think Cosme could be good at guard. I just feel like I don't think he'll hold up because I just think he just gets hurt all the time. I think he could be good at guard. I think just won't hold.
Third season.
Yeah, I mean it's that because his rookie year. I mean he was adequate at tackle, like right tackle. I thought his rookie year was solid for a rookie right tackle. He just hasn't, like that second year he was hurt and he just didn't look good when he was on the field. At tackle.
You want to see these offensive linemen be able to play through injuries because the good ones do.
They do. They do. Trent's do all the time. See, look, I had
60% Trent Williams was better than anybody.
I know.
In the league.
I gotta throw his name out there all the time.
Too, though, with those 2 years that he was there hasn't been, the offensive line shuffled a lot, and there was not that much consistency in the Commander's offensive line for the last 2 years that he was there. I mean,
who's Cosme?
Yes, there was no consistency, so it wasn't able to build any consistency because you had centers going out, you had guards going out, you had tackles going out, you had to do a lot of replacement, and so he had to learn with different guys in different positions, and so that hurts the development of a athlete at this level coming in, especially a young guy trying to get where he's at because there's no consistency, and then you also had. You had Scott Turner calling the offense. I'm not gonna talk about his name anymore. But
he's gone. You can mention his name.
I know he's gone, but you also had him. So now you got how much development what he was able to do. I know with the offensive scheme when you have all these guys missing pieces, things like that. So you may have a guy who took a step back, but being in a new position may help him. being around smarter coaches as well. So
big deal. Yep.
That's true. A different coach. That is
different
true.
coach.
I mean, the
Different
O-line
coaches.
coach is good, though. That O-line coach is really good.
O-line was good, but you got a different scheme coming in too. So
Yeah, I know. The scheme's going to probably be better for him. It may suit him better.
Who's going to scheme towards the strength of the offensive line that he's trying to build. If you look at the Kansas City offensive line, there's really not a lot of big names, but those guys know what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, you're right.
And they know where they're supposed to be at.
Yeah, you need the guy they brought here. The guy they brought here.
No more rotating right tackles and right guards in the middle of the game. Like that's part of the philosophy that guy can, because you just don't do that. And I think with this offensive line coach, I think that there'll be a lot more focus on just stability. That this team needs.
That's high school stuff, though. That's high school.
Yeah, exactly.
That's high school stuff. You don't rotate your offensive line. If there's some things that you want consistency, you want your offensive line to be consistent. You don't even take offensive linemen out when you're driving to go get a breather, right? You keep the consistency of the offensive line. That's day one coaching. I'm sorry.
That's what Louisville did with Lamar Jackson. I'm blanking right now on the name, but we had a tackle. I'm blanking on his name. He was with us for like 2 years, but they would flip him to left tackle to right tackle, depending on the run play with Lamar Jackson. And man, it might have worked a little bit over there, but that crap's not going to fly in the NFL.
No, I agree. I do think that. I mean, hopefully they settle on one. I just hope for the best for Sam Howell, for his situation. I just think that's unfair to do that. We've talked about KJ Henry, talked about Chris Rodriguez Jr. Let's go to the 7th round pick from linebacker Andre Jones out of Louisiana. Anything about him, Adam? Like what's some of his good thing?
A little bit of a surprising pick to me. I understand it's a late pick, but outside linebacker, projected in the 3-4. So it was a little bit surprising. But what I just started asking around after the pros draft, like I said, I talked to Ryan Fowler, just talked to anybody that I know that was evaluating, talking to teams during the draft. And a lot of people said Washington was doing a lot of 5-man fronts last year based on necessity. They're going to be doing some 3-4 sets this year. So they don't have the linebackers to do that. And this is a guy that, he has the length and overall size to be an edge guy, although very lean, but as a 3-4 outside linebacker, you could bring him in situational and, he can really make some noise. What I keep hearing is they want to find a role for him. That's their goal. Ultimately, I you're talking about the guys, Obata and the other guys. I don't see him beating out those guys. So I think early on he's practice squad, but I would not be surprised if we see, it's just one injury in the defensive line. I think he gets activated from the practice squad. So, I'll have his scouting report out probably next week or week after. I'm doing I do the draft picks and undrafted, then go back and forth between those for scouting reports. But yeah, he's a guy that he'll be involved at some point, sometime, but 6 years. So he has more game experience than anybody that they drafted.
Yeah, it's like, I think the number I looked at before was like 1,700 games he done played. It's something crazy. It's something 1,700 snaps, not games. Sorry, like his college year, it's like 1,700 snaps. It's crazy when you look at what he's played. It's like it's ridiculous. 6 years,
60 games, I think it was. Yeah. So
COVID helped him out.
I'm telling you, COVID, man, it's helped out a lot of kids in terms of getting that extra year, man. It's up the stats.
Except for you're a high school kid trying to get.
I know it's screwing the high school kids. Don't get me started on that, man. In basketball, I have kids. Just don't get me started. All right, so in terms of like the overall grade of this Commanders draft, what would you give the Commanders draft, Adam?
Like I said, after the Stromberg pick, I was at that B+ range. But I feel like, they kind of started going down a little bit, but not much, because I understand that it really became drafting for need at that point. As soon as you got to Daniels and all those, it started being need picks, not necessarily the best available, but solid B. But, going into the undrafted free agency, I already wrote about a couple guys, but I think this guy, Kashmir Allen out of UCLA.
I was going to get to that too.
He's got Kansas City written all over him, but solid B. But you start to, incorporate a couple of the undrafted guys, the offseason, we can get to a B+ if these pan out,
Okay. Glenn, what's your draft? Your draft grade?
Same thing like Adam, I give it a B. You met some top tier guys. I really like the Stromberg pick. I really do like that, because I thought the offensive line was a big need, especially if you asking Sam Howell to be your starting quarterback. You need to keep this guy. You need to keep this kid upright, man. You need to. He can't be running for his life like Heineke and all these other guys. He has to be upright and be able to get the ball down the field. Even though he's an athletic quarterback, you don't want him to get hit as much. You don't want him to get hit. You don't want him to touch. And with Eric Bieniemy's situation, if you look at it, I had to look at it from a different standpoint when I looked at it. If you really don't see Patrick Mahomes, and I had to go back there, he doesn't really get touched as much. So I'm thinking, so and then he's able to maneuver with his feet. And I'm not saying Sam Howell is a Patrick Mahomes, but Sam Howell, if you watch Sam Howell, even in Carolina, he does like to move out of the pocket. And so, so he does like to move when he feels the pressure, and he's not scared to run. And he kind of plays with that kind of a chip on his shoulder. So you like that. So I like the offensive line Stromberg pick. So and even the Daniels pick later on, I thought they met their needs. So I had to give them like a B minus for what they did in the draft. And what was, like Adam said, what was left on the board when they had to pick. They didn't have all the picks that Philadelphia had, but they had to do what they needed to do. So
the Eagles are great. They're a great organization.
But what's going to help? We talk about the offensive line. It's the up tempo. EB is going to run a lot of tempo, and we've been talking about this for years. We're waiting for this innovation. I think we finally got it, and he's going to know pretty early on in camp that his line is really a work in progress. And the only way they're going to have success is to pound the ball and to get the ball out fast. And I think you have the kind of receivers, those quick slants, hitches. You don't have to worry about these go balls all day long.
I know.
So they'll take a lot of stress off this offensive line, let them get their cohesion going, hopefully.
Yeah, no more Scott Turner, I know.
But you said it. The Washington Commanders have receivers in space. When you talk about Dotson, when you talk about Terry, when you talk about those guys, Curtis Samuel, those guys in space that can make people miss. And then when you throw AG in the mix, because he will play a little bit of receiver out there.
That's right.
You throw AG in the mix, and guys who are in space that can go. It makes the offense a little bit scary. It makes Sam Howell, who can if he can get the ball out between 1.2 and 2 seconds, it makes the offense that much better.
Use that baseball arm, man. So I actually gave him a C, just because I was unknown for me. I like the first pick. I was in love with the first pick. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I was in love with the first pick. I just, like Adam mentioned earlier, I just wanted O-line because I do worry. To me, it's always about building your, when you got a young quarterback, got to take care of that interior and those tackles, and I know a lot of people they like what's his face, Leno. They love Leno. He's a good guy, and he's a serviceable left tackle. He's a serviceable left tackle, but they need a guy. They just need a dog. You know what I mean? And not to say like there wasn't. I'm not saying there was that guy in this draft like in the second round. I'm not saying that. But I would have liked for them either free agency or somebody that had potential to be that guy. You know what I'm saying? So you never know what player pans out to be something special, even in the second round. Like you can coach somebody up and they can be that guy. Like not every star Hall of Fame left tackle was drafted in the first round. You can get somebody in the second round. I just wish that, maybe they addressed it. And maybe they're looking at their board and like there's nobody worth it, and that's fine. I'm just saying in terms of just not being a guy who's not doing all of the the scouting or whatnot, just looking at it for what it is. I wasn't in love with it because I was like, you gotta take care of this young dude. You know what I mean? We've grown in Washington, seen what happens to young quarterbacks who are not protected, a la Patrick Ramsey, who just kind of was ruined because of it, because he wasn't protected. He was ruined and he had promise. It just was ruined because he got trauma from being sacked so many times. So I just hope that doesn't happen with him. Huh?
They didn't like Patrick Ramsey.
Oh yeah, they treated him horribly. The way they treated Spurrier treated him horribly, to be honest with you. Treated him horribly. But yeah, so I just hope that this line pans out. But I was a fan of the first pick, but on Twitter we put a poll out there about the grade. Everyone agrees with you all though. 81% gave it a B, and 13% gave it a C. So
that's right.
You know what I mean? So yes, everybody, you're on point. To be, I mean, I hope I want the kid out of Utah to pan out. I won't lie, and the kid out of Arkansas, I want them to pan out because I think it's essential for the growth of this team. But you all had interesting points about Eric Bieniemy being a coach. It's a different scheme, and you're gonna see more. I think you're gonna see more zone running. I think that's a good way to go. You can hide and mask guys who just can't flat out take a guy one-on-one. Because the Eagles just got better on that D-line. I'm sorry. I mean, they got to steal. I'm sorry. They got to steal.
With zones, you create angles, right?
Yeah.
You create angles, and you use your athletic guys, your athletic linemen.
Yeah.
You create that, and you allow your back to create cutback lanes.
So yeah, hopefully that's the role. Because like I said, I'm looking at the Eagles defensive line, and I'm like, good God, how do you get better?
That's only.
You went to Super Bowl. How do you get better?
That's only 2 out of 17, dog.
Hey man, I don't blame the Eagles. I blame every other team that passed up on that kid from Georgia. I blame them for letting the Eagles get him. That's who I blame. I blame them. I don't blame the Eagles did that what they were supposed to do. I blame them other teams who were just being foolish. But Adam, you mentioned You mentioned the undrafted players. Mentioned the kid from UCLA who I do think is going to take Dak Smith's job, and finally this team will have a good kickoff returner and punt returner. But who are some of the other kids?
Me and you could take Dax Min's job.
Well, not today with his hamstring, bro. Not today, but maybe you know what? Maybe with a bad hamstring, I could. I probably got more shake than that wiggle than that dude has.
Oh, you do got more shake than that dude.
But yeah, in terms of some of the other undrafted free agents, what other ones other than that's the kid I think he's gonna make the team. But other than him, who do you think can make an impact on this team? Make the team, maybe practice squad, can kind of like be a guy that we may say, okay, he may be that dude.
Yeah, I'm still going through, like I said, I'm still going through the undrafted free agents, but right now, like I said, it's the receivers. Kashmir Allen, I think the fact that he's a returner, kick returner, people say, but he didn't return punts. I think that guy, it's not a big transition. He'll push Milne off. I'm already envisioning him keeping 6. So I think De'Ami Brown, I think they'll give him a chance. I don't think they're going to get rid of him, but him not playing special teams hurt. But I think, they're going to get a surprise. I think I'm going to predict 2 undrafted free agents are going to make the team a receiver. The other guy is Mitchell Tinsley out of Penn State. He went undrafted. It's production, man. This is a guy 1 year in the high school ball, walked on the community college, looked great. Went to Western Kentucky, 1,400 yards.
Yeah, tore it up.
Then he went to Penn State, not the best year, like 600 yards, but the way he did it at Penn State, he was bailing out his quarterback left and right. He's just got that window that he's able to just continuously make those, acrobatic catches. That's what one of the guys he is. But he's not going to blow you away with speed. He's not going to blow by DBs. And those are the kind of guys that it's not as easy as project because they get on the next level, and that 4.5 speed, sub 4.5 speed is just not enough to get by NFL DBs. But I have him as a surprise making. And like I said, so I think him and Allen so far are guys I like, looking at the other guys, just about the positions that they are, safeties, edges, these guys. I think we're talking about a lot of practice squads, but I'm looking forward to getting into their tape because, I think, a couple, HBCU guys in there too. I always love that. And, I was happy at least to see my guy Bolden, get some love at the end, but to be the only, drafted HBCU guy, that's a time, man, because these guys are good. Aubrey Miller, man. That was one of my first write-ups of the year. I don't understand how nobody got him, but sometimes these undrafted free agents, that's what happens. They come out of nowhere and they're really good. So I think other than the receivers, these guys are mostly practice squad for the most part. But I think having the type of receivers Washington has and not having a need for it, it's really interesting to look at some of these back end guys and, to be able to watch them in camp and go against Washington's DBs and see what they're going to do. But yeah, Allen, Tinsley, these are guys I think so far, keep an eye on those guys.
Okay, cool. I mean, I will say this. I do expect some big things from De'Ami Brown if he gets an opportunity with Sam Howell being the quarterback. I expect
they're working together right now.
They've been working together. They work together in the off. They have been working together in the off season.
Yes.
So I do expect it's going to be better than having Scott Turner. Put it that way. His speed will be utilized.
Yeah. I think that you said it. His connection with Sam Howell. He had some issues with lapses. I'm just not seeing the ball in all the way. But I think with Sam Howell, I said it when he was drafted, he has the best touch pass of anybody in that class. And I say in this class too, I think he has a better touch pass than anybody. And that's huge for a guy that's, working with the type of athletic receivers we have, because that gives you the ability to really get those guys the ball out in space where they can make plays. So yeah, I think that, Brown will have a real good chance early on. It'll be how much, he's going to have to impress, EB, because to get on the field, get in these creative packages that we're going to see, I think that he's going to it's going to be a fun season to watch. I think for the first time in probably since RG3, I'm really excited to see this offense go, but I'm just as excited because I think this defense is it. I really think that they've got everybody ready, and I think they're primed to be a top 10 unit.
Dope. Hey, Adam, this has been a great show. Adam, how can folks catch you on social media and catch, your write-ups for the Burgundy and Gold Report?
Yeah, always at the burgundyandgoldreport.com, on Twitter, the B&G Report. With Doug McCrae and George Carmi, was doing a draft show every Wednesdays. We're gonna be switching it to Monday now, doing some more fantasy. So yeah,
Awesome.
catch me on there. But always my content, always drop. We'll be doing, like I said, the draft picks and undrafted. Rotate between those, scatter reports, outlooks for Washington, the burgundyandgoldreport.com. Check me out. I'll be dropping those 3 to 4 every week.
Adam, I love your grind, man. I love it.
Thank you, man.
No problem, man.
Always a pleasure.
Hey, man. Before we end the show, subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Just search All Burgundy and Go Errrything. Also tweet us at ABG_Errrything. Hit us up on IG at ABG_Errrything, and like our All Burgundy and Gold Facebook page. Make sure you subscribe to our All Burgundy and Gold Errrything YouTube channel as well. Hey, this has been a great show. Always appreciate Adam for being on. Hey, Glenn, you're the homie. You've been listening to All Burgundy and Gold Errrything, powered by the Urban Sports Scene and Fox Sports Radio 96.9 FM and 1340 AM. Hopewell, Virginia, for ages. You dig? Deuces. Hey, Mega, lead us out, big homie. Peace.